All right, heading into Wednesday, October 2nd.
Yeah, it's October, Robert. Get it right. It's October. It's T minus 1 day before your friend over here turns another year older. I won't talk about it. The gray gives me away, so we don't need to get into that. But yes, it is October.
Hopefully not more older and more colder.
No, no, older, cooler, definitely cooler. Every year I age, I get a little bit cooler, a little more suave, a little bit more debonair.
All right, so and the Wednesday morning, I don't even know how to address it. Debonair, I do like the word debonair.
Well, thank you, thank
You
you. I
know what
pulled
is
that one
not
out special.
You know what is not debonair is losing 7-1 on a
No,
Champions League day. So we
no.
are here on Wednesday morning. We're halfway through match day 2 for the UEFA Champions League. Tons of goals and blowouts on Tuesday and some intriguing matchups ahead here on Wednesday. Looking at that scoreboard, like I said, lots of lopsided ones on this page and the next. Salzburg losing to the best of the rest, Brest. Stuttgart 1-1. Arsenal getting a pretty resound victory over the now seemingly starless PSG. Barcelona roll the young boys, and Leverkusen get the one over Christian Pulisic and Milan. What's your takeaway from that group of games there, Mr. Davis?
Well, I mean, look, yes, Brest impressed, and Salzburg has been competitive in this competition on some level in the recent past,
So
but
no
I don't.
Jesse Marsh's Salzburg.
No, it's not even the Salzburg of 2 years ago, much less the Jesse Marsh Salzburg. But Brest was impressive. Stuttgart, that's a disappointing result for them at home against Sparta Prague. If they want to be in the round of 16, I think they needed a victory there. Arsenal, that's huge for them. No Martin Odegaard, we talked about that. PSG does have some star power, but not the Kylian Mbappe, Lionel Messi, Neymar level of star power anymore. Ousmane Dembele left back in Paris because of some sort of tiff with Luis Enrique, so that's certainly interesting. Barcelona 5-0 over Young Boys. They looked good. Lewandowski, I mean, they were just humming. They've had a lot of injury issues, and yet they took care of their business as you would. I mean, look, and that's a bounce back for them, right? After what happened in Monaco. Leverkusen 1-0 over Milan. We're going to come back to that game because of the Pulisic factor. Leverkusen was the much better team. They deserved to win the game. There were a couple of big moments in that match, including a potential red card for a hand to the face from Tapsoba. There was also a penalty shout on Tammy Abraham going down in the box that was not given or apparently reviewed. Well, I imagine it was reviewed, but clearly not changed on the field. I don't know that Milan can really complain, however. And that's then the other games.
Oh,
These are the ones, right? Well, not again. 2-4, another 4-0, another 4-0. Inter beating Red Star, no surprise there. Man City taking care of Slovan Bratislava in Slovakia, probably no surprise there. Dortmund, Celtic feeling so good about themselves, Robert, after the last match day. And then this, you get there's I love talking about what is the number that represents humiliation in a soccer match. What's the number the other team needs to put up for you to feel like not only did you get beaten badly, you got humiliated? And 7 is certainly past that number. Certainly 7 is past that number.
I think once you're getting into 5 and beyond, 4 is a drubbing.
4 is dicey. 4 is like, yeah, that's pretty bad, but it's not embarrassing bad or humiliating bad.
Yeah, there's a
5,
game that can
yes.
kind of get out of hand at the end, like maybe a late penalty puts it over to get it to 4, but 5, 6, 7, yeah, the game got out of control on you. An American involved in there, unfortunately, for the back line of the team that conceded 7.
Yes.
Young Austin
Austin
Trusty, not as young
Trusty.
as I remembered Austin Trusty. He is like 26 in his
Yeah, he's
prime.
not he's not a young guy anymore. We wondered if this was the right move for him to go up north to Glasgow and play for Celtic. I don't know that the Dortmund result in the Champions League indicates it's a bad move for Austin Trusty. I know there are defenders of Scottish football, but I don't think week to week that's the high enough level for a guy who wants to be a U.S. international. Of course, Cameron Carter-Vickers also plays there, and his place in the national team is kind of up in the air at this point with Mauricio Pochettino coming in. So Yeah, it's embarrassing to say the least.
Cameron Carter-Victor is probably thankful that he was left out due to injury yesterday. I mean, I'm sure he wanted to play and probably would have had an impact, but it's
Is that what is that the mindset? The mindset is like, thank you, soccer gods, that I was unavailable to get humiliated by Dortmund in the Champions League.
I don't feel like that's an elite athlete sort of an approach to
No.
wish you weren't there. He was probably dying inside because he wasn't there to help. Is probably more
Yes.
likely the case.
Yes. Yeah,
But
there's probably a little cloud over his head, and it was raining on him as he sat there, not dressed with the reserves or wherever he was at the Signal Iduna Park. A touchdown and an extra point for Dortmund in that game, and still celebrating up 7-1. I mean, I guess
they're in
Champions
front
League.
of their what, like 60, 70,000 fans. I'm sure it's easy to get hype when you score with Dortmund's fan base. And it's funny to think when you see the result here, there was a point in the first half here where this game was 1-1. And
Yes, right.
it seemed like it was an actual legitimate contest. And then definitely wheels came rolling on off. And shout out to Emery Chan, had a big role in here. It was one of my former favorites at Liverpool, and he's become quite the stalwart in Iraq and the experienced player in what is usually a young Dortmund team.
Well, I mean, and a guy at the same time who is maybe not the most beloved player at Dortmund, the most beloved guy in that locker room, and yet in that dressing room, and yet he, as you said, had himself a day. Everybody had themselves a day. I mean, if you didn't score, if you're a Dortmund player and you didn't score, you're feeling pretty low today because, man, everybody got in on it, right?
So what has Emery Chan done to himself or done to his reputation out there?
I just think he's he is the guy who thinks he should be treated as the center of the team, and that does not. I mean, look, Mats Hummels famously last year, as Dortmund was making that Champions League run, said some pretty blunt things about Erden Terzic and his tactics. And look, they do have a new coach, right? They do have Nuri Sahin instead of Terzic, so maybe the vibes are different. I just, again, and there's also this thing. Okay, we make it about us. Morning Kick Around is an American soccer show, meaning we're Americans and we talk about soccer. That's how it's an American soccer show. And we're going to get focused in on some Americans here in a second. Giovanni Reina was not ready to dress for that game against Celtic. So Shaheen is saying that he's close, but not back yet. And obviously with the international window coming up, interesting to ponder whether Gio will get called by Mauricio Pochettino or if they'll leave him back in Dortmund to continue to recover from his injury. But if Gio gets back healthy, Emre Can is one of those players who's going to be blocking him from getting more playing time. So get out of the way, Emre. You've had your moment. Stop it. Leave us alone. Let Gio play, is what I'm hoping.
Looking down the rest of the scores before we turn our full attention to the Americans, no real surprise. Manchester City getting the 4-0 result. Erling Haaland getting the third of the 4. He's just pretty much like has a rubber stamp on score sheets now.
Yeah, yes, and what he is now tied. I think he's tied with Alessandro Del Piero on the all-time scoring list in the Champions League. Now, like, those guys are way behind the Ronaldos of the world. I mean, he needs to triple his output to reach Cristiano Ronaldo. But considering his age, considering the team he plays on, as long as he stays healthy, it's kind of hard to imagine he's not going to get there. And if you've already chased down one of the great goal scorers of his generation in the Champions League in particular, in Del Piero, what are we witnessing here from Erling Haaland? Like, it does feel like I have this too, right? Emotionally, it's hard to just sort of accept Haaland on his terms. Is he this good? We don't know. Like, oh well, but he plays for City. Oh, but this, but that, but the other thing. He scores against weaker teams. Those kind of stuff. Those things come into your mind sometimes, and people want to use them as cudgels against Haaland. But really, that's trying to just drag down a guy who is on a different planet. He is an alien. It's clear.
It seems that the only thing that could possibly hold him back from smashing every record is injury or some sort of like he hit some sort of a skid of back-to-back, fitness things that keep him out of the lineup. But it seems like if he's in the team, he's going to be a major contributor and goal scorer. So, any other things on yesterday's action? Probably move ahead to look into Wednesday as we're halfway through the match day 2 for the new Champions League. And before we get into this, I want to say with this new format, do you agree with me that it's hard to know the gravity of these results and know the stakes of what a win or a loss really means? Because when it was the group stage and as we knew it, you could kind of understand, there's 6 matches, and if you win your first 3 or whatever, you're gonna get through to the next round, and you could kind of see which opponents that you needed to get the results because it was home and away the same teams. With watching it yesterday, I wasn't really like on the edge of my seat. I didn't really know what the stakes were. Are these big stakes games yet?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, obviously the big clubs versus some of the weaker clubs and the score lines being the lopsided scores that they are makes it feel like the games don't really matter yet. But we have had some matches between big teams. I mean, we have had City and Inter. Like that game has happened in the Champions League already. There's somebody who's done the math out there. I'm not a math guy. I don't do math, Robert. No math for me. But there's people who are out there who are telling you what the number is. 13 points should get you at least into the play-in round as a top 24 team. And I think it's I think it's 18 points, a little bit more than that will make sure that you're in the top 8. I got to look at the numbers. I'm kind of throwing these out there, but there are people who have done the math. The other takeaway from this round of the Champions League that I wanted to bring up is what I saw on X. This is a picture. It's a little bit. I'm sharing my screen, so it's a little far away. But this is apparently Erling Haaland and Jack Grealish arriving at the airport in Slovakia for this match against Slovan Bratislava. Same girl, both pictures, by the way. But
they make them very similar in there.
I mean, it's just like first of all, these are the kind of women working at the airport in Slovakia. That's what we've got over there. And Erling Haaland, man, when I say he's an alien, I don't just mean like he's an alien on the field. I mean he is an alien. It's sort of in how he carries himself in the world.
I am not like you.
He's
am
a weird cat.
Level.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah. All right. So those were the games yesterday, as you were saying. You want to look at the schedule for today's matches again, as we are here ahead of the Champions League today. So here are the matches today. The first set. These are the first 9 games today. Anything stand out for you? I mean, I'm obviously wearing a jersey today to mark one of those matches, but go ahead.
I think that from a soccer hipster perspective, some of my favorite low-key teams are matching up against each other in the early rounds. I always like a good Shakhtar match, and Atalanta is always box office quality, in my opinion. So that might be worth a watch. But I have a handful of Aston Villa fans, and they're taking on Bayern Munich. And I'm sure supporters of Aston Villa, like, this is an absolutely gargantuan fixture for them to put that up. I mean, a couple years ago, they probably couldn't have imagined that they'd have a Champions League matchup against Bayern.
No, of course not. In fact, I'm wearing this. I don't remember the last time I put this jersey on. I'm wearing an Aston Villa shirt right now. And I was given this shirt. This is like a lifetime ago. I was given this shirt for my 30th birthday. And my birthday is tomorrow. And I'm turning a little bit more than 30. You can probably. So I've had this. First of all, it fits very well. I just want to I want to give myself a little credit.
You're looking pretty sharp.
Fits perfectly. So I'm the same size I was when I was 30, which I think is a win for me.
Yeah.
I've done some work this year on my weight. We don't have to get into it, but I think I got this shirt because at the time Brad Guzan was an Aston Villa player, and does that seem right? 15 years ago, Brad Guzan was playing for Aston Villa. That's crazy.
He moved over stateside to join Atlanta United. What was Atlanta United's first year? Like 17 or 18?
That was 17.
Like that?
Yeah, that was 17.
So it's at least 7-8 years ago.
Let me just. I want to make sure.
But he was there for a long time. And I think he actually his last stand was at Middlesbrough. So there's a couple years before.
Well, here you go. I turned 30 in 2009.
Hey.
And he was at Villa. He got to Villa in 2008. So this is definitely. I had this shirt because there was an American at Villa. I was like, there's an American. What team am I going to support in the Premier League? There's an American at Villa. I'll be a Villa fan. And I think my family, what do you want for your birthday? I don't know. I guess an Aston Villa shirt. And they went out and got this is Villa fans will remember this shirt. This is definitely old school. It says Acorns on it as a jersey sponsor. But yeah, massive thing for them to have a home game in the European Cup / Champions League against Bayern Munich. And I think the timeline on the last time Villa hosted a European Cup game at Villa Park is 1983. I believe it's 1983. The last time they did this. So I was alive, but I wasn't really aware of the world. So it's been that long. It's been that long, Robert. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, shout out to all the Villa fans and the supporters, because that's a big one for them, certainly a generational moment. Lille Real Madrid, my eye is on Liverpool Bologna. Bologna not started the Serie A season how they played last year.
Juve stole their manager. That's why that happened. Well, I mean, part of it, right?
Yeah, and they were a fifth place team. Thanks to coefficient, the Italian fifth place team got in. So Bologna in against Liverpool. I mean, surprises happen, but I gotta think that Arne Slot's men will take care of business. Leipzig, Juventus. Leipzig, I'm not quite sure what they're up to. How have they looked so far this year?
They're the first team to beat Bayer Leverkusen in the league in forever, because Bayer Leverkusen did not lose in the league last season. And Leipzig kind of took them behind the woodshed a little bit a couple weeks back. So this is a solid team. I mean, I don't know if this is the team everybody thinks is going to break the trophy drought for Leipzig, because that's obviously the goal for this project. Everybody loves that word, right? It's a project. And everybody, of course, German football fans don't like RB Leipzig. What is Rasen Sportball or whatever it is anyway? What is that? That's not a thing. Rasen Ball Sport. Let me get it right. Rasen Ball Sport. What is that? That's not a thing. That's a made up thing so you can put RB in front of Leipzig. But they're a good team, and it's interesting. Marco Rosa, formerly of Dortmund and a number of other places, obviously, is their manager and has done a pretty damn good job. I think they have I think there are favorites here against Juve. I don't think there's any other way to look at that, Robert. And we're hoping, of course, that our man Weston McKennie gets a chance to play this afternoon, and remind us that he is a major part of Thiago Motta's program there at Juve. I mean, that we this is the roller coaster we were on with Weston, right? Like, oh my God, another new manager doesn't want him. He doesn't have a contract. What's going to happen? He's being shopped around. I think Villa might have even been interested at one point. Then the contract gets signed, and now their sporting director is like, oh yeah, we always had Weston in mind for our team. It was just about the contract. And once we got it done, because the thing you have to remember about Juve is that while they're a massive club with massive history, they're still a club that's kind of watching their budget a little bit. And if Weston was asking for a significant pay rise over what he was making before, Juve was going to hold firm. And he could have pushed his way out the door and went and got more money somewhere else. But I think he wanted to be at Juve. I think he likes it there. We know he's made a romantic connection in the north of Italy. So, all those things are part of this.
So you're saying Motta is pretending like he had him in his mind the whole time when they famously took away his player parking spot? Were they just restriping the lot? I mean, and that wasn't real?
I just think it's standard operating procedure. I mean, it's a cold, calculated business, right? There's no room for sentiment when it's like, well, if we can't sign you to the number that we can afford to pay you, and we're drawing a line in the sand. This is the number, and if you don't want that contract, well, then you're not part of our team, and we have to move on, and we can't mess around with, I think Weston McKennie is a very good soccer player. I think he has a lot of utility in a number of areas on the field. I think Thiago Motta is a very smart manager and realized that, and it was just about the business aspects of it. And what is Motta going to say publicly? Yeah, I really want Weston McKennie. That damages Juve's leverage as they go into those contract negotiations with the kid.
So it was a difficult match day for Americans on the Tuesday. So I guess is the American hope of Wednesday is kind of pinned on Weston McKennie getting some minutes